All right. Hey, everybody. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about doing your characters in color. Your black and white characters in Value are due pretty soon, but I wanted to just show a couple techniques that pretty much are common that everybody uses. It's fairly easy. Um, for this Batman, like I've told you before that I break things down in stages. You've got your line drawing, got your value, you got your color, right? At any of those stages, you can switch between. I'm talking as a professional in terms of thinking how to do this. I'm not saying for this assignment. For this assignment, I would like it all to be a traditional medium, but I'm gonna mention like things you can do after. So this Batman drawing was just a line drawing that I colored with black Prismacolor, and I used a Kleenex and some Gamsol. You can also use Turpenoid if you don't have Gamsol. And sometimes I've seen some people use Simple Green, the house cleaner, to do this technique. And I did it on vellum, which is a really high quality rag paper. It's like tracing paper, but it's thicker and heavier. And it allows you to move everything around, and the paper can take some abuse, and it doesn't wrinkle as badly. But anyway, for this demo in class, I did a Batman in line drawing, and I cut off his ears, so I did not get that quite right. But I took another clean sheet of vellum and put it through the copier and printed it smaller so that I could put his ears in here, because this was going off the paper, and I needed to fix that. So the background over here, I just grabbed two complementary colors, red and green, I think, and I just went over the whole thing because I want it to be like a brownish muddy gray. And then I used Gamsol with a couple drops of this on a Kleenex. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And it'll blend away the lines so it doesn't look like it's a colored pencil. It looks more like it's a painting or a watercolor or something. But you can see the strokes of my pencil and how they kind of disappear and melt away. Because it's a wax-based product, it's an oil-based product, and this stuff is meant to dilute oil. It's a medium for cleaning your brushes. So I took blue pencil and I colored in all the light gray areas and covered it all up and smudged it around. And all the other areas here, the red and green pencil to make it nice and muddy. And then I choose colors that look like a Caucasian flesh tone, and I put those on Batman, and I hit him with a few, a few areas of light that are in the shadow. And maybe you can see it a little better if I zoom in. Like, see these purples in here? That's in the shadow side. That's supposed to be like a reflected light. And then all the parts in here, I made it, this is what it actually looks like on the paper before I made some changes. So here's his skin tone, and some of it I'm blending a little bit and then adding more and then blending. The same works with pigment. You put a really thin coat of, say, acrylic, and make sure you do this on a board that's not gonna wrinkle up. Like, don't do it in your sketchbook. But for this, I just put more pencil and just built it up after I blended it away. And some of this is just the white of the paper coming through, because there isn't much dark value on the paper, so it just appears lighter. And even then, you can zoom in, and you can see how my finger is like dragging some of the blue outside the line. It really isn't that huge a deal sometimes if you stay within the lines or not. And up close you can see the red and green. I'm just holding two pencils at the same time to make those marks. And after I did this one, I made it darker digitally, just so that this part of his head would pop out, because these two are really close in value. So I need to make this darker so his head pops out. Okay? Talking about some pieces down here. This piece was for a magazine. And what I did was I put down a lot of texture with gesso on a board, illustration board. Gesso is like white acrylic paint, but with a lot more pigment and powder in it. It's meant to make everything white, so that's where you start. And I'm using a thick board so that it doesn't get all bendy. And I covered it with burnt sienna and burnt umber, and I think I just wet a paper towel and I just covered the whole thing, you know. And you can do that on pretty much any surface that won't warp on you. It just has to be thick, or tape it down so that if it is taped down and it warps, it kind of goes up. And if you have a hair dryer, you can put it back down so it stays flat. And after I did that, I think I may have done some airbrush, but I really don't remember. This was so long ago. But I know that the sombrero is all pencil, colored pencil. You know, I hit some highlights on it. And these are all photos that I found. Like, I had to find a picture of this guy, the president of Mexico. And at the time, he did not have this, he wasn't wearing this hat. I had to go find a hat and put it on him and resize it to, you know, get the drawing approved. So I got that done. They wanted Clinton in this shot. And at the time, Monica Lewinsky was a big scandal, so I had painted her in here. But the art director was like, let's not put Monica Lewinsky in there. It's you know, too controversial. It'll draw too much attention to Bill Clinton. Make it Pamela Anderson. So that's why Pamela Anderson is in here. And I painted her in oil just to make sure that it covered everything up, because oil is an opaque painting medium. But this hat is all colored pencil. And this background here, this was all brown, but he said the art director, his name was Mao. He was a Chinese guy named Mao, but he was Mexican and spoke with a Mexican accent. And he wanted the part outside the U.S. that's ocean to look blue. So I changed this part in digital after the whole thing was painted. But a lot of this stuff is either colored pencil or white, you know. And like, once you do your value, you know where the light is. You know, all the light is going to be on this side, the shadows are going to be on this side, and the reflected light is going to be a really close value to the background, you know. The face over here was oil, and I think the colors I'm using are Naples yellow, Mars red, maybe. You just have to play a little bit with your paint before you start painting. What else was I going to say? Process-wise, I'm going to show you some older pieces that I did that, just so you can get an up-close look at how I started and how I did it. Let's see here. Like, I had to do this painting of JFK, Harry Belafonte, Martin Luther King, Richard Nixon, and Bill Clinton. And basically, once I got the drawing approved by the art director, I copied it and blew it up and stuck it on illustration board with just a spray. And, you know, these are copies. Like, they're peeling up, you know. But I just needed it to get done enough so I could take a picture of it and send it off. But you can see the underpainting, right? You can see my brush strokes. I'm using blues and browns. This is probably burnt sienna and maybe some burnt umber down here. And this is probably phthalo blue. Phthalocyanine blue and maybe some ultramarine in there. But phthalocyanine blue really looks transparent like that because when you stroke it, you can still see the white of the board through it, and you can still see a little bit of the texture that I got on here when I used matte medium, which is like it's like Elmer's glue but really thin, and you can put it down, and then once it dries, you have a surface that has some swirls in it. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know, the light. Like you can see the swirls of paint going this way, like the thickness of it. There, that's so. Anyway, for this, I'm painting like white for the shirts, some different levels of gray for the gray hair, mixing up some different colors of probably alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, and white for the skin tones of the Caucasians. The darker skin, more like burnt umber, cad orange. But it's tricky. You don't want to use cad orange because it's very opaque and it'll hide your lines, so you won't be able to see it. For this thing, I could see my lines underneath the drawing because it's a copy. This is on copy paper that I painted on top of, and that way I could still see where everything had to go. And this hair is yellow ochre, and this shadow is pretty much the same brown that's over here. I darkened up the core shadow edge, which is the part that goes up against the light. But I had to take all these and put these together. Couldn't do it in Photoshop back then, but now this would be cake, right? Another piece that might be easier to see here is this Prince piece, where it's mostly brown. It's really hard to see. It's very reflective. It's mostly brown. There's some phthalocyanine blue in the back, and I would cut Frisket to tape off the areas and put the background stuff in. Like I'd cut a real clean mask in Frisket so I could get the moon really clean and not get it messed up into the background. And I got Prince's face. That's all oil, but to me it doesn't really matter what you use. Let's see what else I have here. I grabbed a painting. I set it down. I forgot where I put it. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can grab it. Where the hell is that painting? I took it off the wall. Oh well, never mind. Oh, here's some other ones that might be helpful to you. I've shown these before. Like these, this is gouache, and I just put down a mess of color. You can see my brush strokes, right? Just put down a mess of color and let that be the main color of what's mostly in the image, and then paint the lights. And gouache behaves a little differently. I don't have that much experience with gouache, but I just kind of played with it as best I could. Same here. Put down the color that covers most of it, and then start painting your lights and your shadows. Now this is bugging me. I took that painting off the wall, I set it down. I don't know where the hell it went. But anyway, lay down your main color, your underpainting, which is what this stuff in the back is. Don't overwork it, because it's kind of fun to have this motion and texture. Like you can see all the drawing. This is actually a drawing for something else. I just didn't have anything to work on, so I just used it. And transferred the drawing that got approved on here, and then just started painting. And you just start dark to light. The way things work is you either start dark to light, light to dark, or from the middle out. And in this case, this color, this brown in the background, is the middle. So then from the middle, you would start making your dark shapes and dark values, and then you make your light values. So you go from the middle to black, and then from the middle to white. Same kind of deal. Just put down a bunch of color and then start painting the colors on top. And mix it up in your palette. Test it out on the edges or somewhere to make sure that that's the color you want to put down. And just think about what the materials are. Like these metal rounds in her bandolier pack, they're going to be shiny, so you're going to have a high contrast on them, right? Like be accurate with your guns and stuff. Like get the actual gun for whatever story. Like I have these like laying around. These are toy plastic guns that I had as a child in Japan, and they come in kits that you can put together, and they look real. They look super real, and I just use that to show students this is what the light looks like on the shape. But if you're gonna paint something, try to get the real thing in front of you. Like I have a metallic pen if I need references for metal, and I got one of these. What do you call it? It's a penguin. I forgot who got me this. I don't know if I got this myself. I know my wife buys me these things sometimes. Just like for example, you know, objects that have the qualities that the illustration needs to have, just as reference, you know, so that you have it. Anyway, going back to working on this stuff, the medium you work with doesn't really matter. You just have to have a little bit of practice with it and have a picture in your head of what you want it to look like when it's done. Don't be afraid to find pictures of other people's artwork. That's going to be helpful to you. Like I like looking at the work of Mike Butkus a lot, because you know his drawings are not far off from what the finished pieces are going to look like. And he's changed up his website now, so his drawings are not as available to learn from as they were once before. But yeah, the process is still pretty much the same. And you just got to get control of the medium, because if you cannot control value, you don't have control of the medium. And if you can't make edges hard and soft, you don't have the ability to make forms turn, because it's gradual changes in value that, like, you can see the reflections of white going towards a darker white, and then you get back to the reflection there. And then if I tip it this way, this is another value. If you can't control these values, you can't control the hard edges, the change in value of hard edges, and the change in value in soft edges, which is what expresses the idea that this cylinder is round. You don't have control of the medium. Those are the things you need to be able to pull off. And that's about it, I guess. I don't know if there's any other images here that I can really share. Like, this one is a good one. I wanted to spend a lot of time creating this painting, but this is oil paint, and oil paint is expensive. So I did what's called a comp. And a comp is basically the colors you're planning to use, and you just test it out. And the reason I stuck this penny here is because it's small. Let's see what else I got. Some of these are student pieces. old student paintings. Um, this is from one of my Moleskine sketchbooks. I draw small. You guys know that. I paint small. You guys know that too. So that when I do paint big, I'm not wasting paint. I know exactly what's going to go where I want it to go. Again, small paintings, small studies. There's Batman. This is the painting I had on hand that I pulled off the wall and I put down somewhere, and I don't remember where I put it. And it's pretty big, so I don't know where the hell I put it. But anyway, you see this brown down here? All of this stuff is what the base color of the canvas was, as I put an underpainting. And you can see that I'm only using 4 colors, maybe 5 colors here. I'm using ivory black, which you don't really want to use unless you're doing a Spanish palette. You don't want to mix ivory black really into flesh tones at all to make things darker. You don't want to do that. But I did use it for the hair and his eyebrows and the shadows in his beard and on his shirt. And I thinned it out for the back to make it darker. Like this is the back shadow of his head. And I mixed it in a little bit so for the tattoos of his hair. The 2 colors that are making up his skin here in the dark are mainly burnt umber and Mars red or Indian red. I don't remember which. And then for the light colors and lighter values of his skin, that's Naples yellow. And Naples yellow is all over the place as far as you buy it from different brands. They're all different colors. All the colors are really not the same between the different brands. Like you might buy one brand of color that you really like, say for example, Winsor Newton olive green, because you love how beautiful that is when you mix it with alizarin crimson. But the olive green in say Gamblin, it's opaque. And I like working with transparent colors. And then there was like some Permalba, which is white for the beard. But this is the one I pulled off the wall, and I feel like I'm going insane that I just set it down somewhere and I don't remember where. Anyway, this was a traditional piece. A lot of Payne's gray in the jeans. There's cadmium red light, alizarin crimson for this devil character. The logo over here for the Tabasco was digital. And I messed this up too. So I did a background separately and put him on this background. But the background is traditional, his body is traditional, and the label is digital. But the body and the background were 2 separate things that I put together. There you can see another one of my small drawings, and then the digital. I think that's all I have. You've seen a lot of this stuff before. Oh, I don't know if you're interested. This is some work from past students. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to share a few things just as far as, yeah, you see, when you have your piece, your digital piece, you can try different things out, or at least you have your values. Like here's my initial sketch. Here's a cleaned up line drawing. And I made it a little darker. And then I printed it on gray paper and tried applying white to it. And I wasn't that crazy about it. And then I took it digital. And I took this drawing and blended a lot of the values here in digital. And then I tried some vector costume stuff, and it just felt really stiff. But then painting it in painting this version felt better. So you can see all the different experiments you can try and the different results you can get. You know, just as long as you have your drawing, you can go back to it. And then if you have your value, you try different colors. And as long as you separate those separate steps, you're golden. And that's what I try to get across to my students. All right, so anyway, make sure your value drawings are really good, because that'll be the heavy lifting. Then you don't have to work so hard in color. All right? I hope that's helpful, and good luck to you all.